Sunday begins a new era for this Falcons offense.
This is the Atlanta Sports Party, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Atlanta Sports Party, your home for the best Atlanta sports talk. It's local insight you can't get anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste, and alongside me are Jarvis Davis and Maria Martin. The Atlanta Sports Party is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So 97 is back for his 10th trip, but what will stop number one look like against his former coach? We'll talk about that and download on what the Dogs need to do in Athens this weekend. But first, let's talk about this vaunted Falcons offense heading into a week one clash with the dominant Steelers D. Now, this is the first chance, Jarvis, that we'll get to see Kirk Cousins operate a Zach Robinson offense in live game action. So what do you hope to see from this Falcons offense in week one?
I'll continue to say it as we go along through the season, but my expectations for this offense are pretty doggone high. Because when you think about Arthur Smith's offense, when he was the offensive coordinator, they never averaged over 20 points a game, which is absolutely putrid in today's NFL. So when you think about it from that aspect of it, all I'm asking is 25 points a game. I need at least 25 points from this squad in the first game and then once you all get rolling and get a good understanding and good vibes as far as from a play calling standpoint and from a execution standpoint, I feel like they should push that number up to 27, 28 points a game. But in this first game, I understand it. They didn't have any, reps as far as live real reps. And these are Kirk Cousins' words because he's saying, hey, that red jersey isn't real. That's not real. So for me, I'm right along with Kirk. I'm just like, all right, until they get these real live reps against the Steelers that we're going to see on Sunday, I have to, keep my expectation for this offense a little measured. So yeah, I'm right at about 25 points in this first matchup.
And Maria, the excitement around Atlanta has been palpable for Kirk Cousins and what this offense can do. And of course, I know we'll talk a little bit in a minute about Kyle Pitts, but maybe a healthy Kyle Pitts, a Bijan Robinson that'll get to finally show everything that he can do. And of course, Drake London having a real quarterback to throw to him. So all of that said, what are you looking?
That's how we starting today.
Starting it early. I like it.
Yes, I like it. Let's go.
Without shots fired by mistake, did I say it out loud? But anyway, Maria, real talk. What do you hope to see from this Falcons offense in week one? And when I say real, of course, I mean a Pro Bowl level type quarterback in Kirk Cousins.
Sure, yeah. There you go. Not as shady when you call him a Pro Bowl quarterback. I love that. I expect them to unleash on some people, and I really expect them to be kind of what we anticipate. They're going to be dynamic. They're going to be multiple. They're going to do a lot of things that I think you never saw last year. And, this role clarity thing that Raheem Morris keeps talking about, I think is going to shine very brightly on Sunday and very quickly because it allows Bijan Robinson to, as you mentioned, become what we think he can. And it's funny because I asked him yesterday when I was up in Flowery Branch, I said, look, when you're a rookie in the NFL, you've got enough on your plate, enough to worry about. There's a learning curve and you're thinking about a bunch of things. Just how do I survive in my first year? Where are you in your second year mentally? How do you feel? Pretty simple, easy question. And he said, oh, it's night and day different. I feel 100% confident. He kept using the word confident, which I thought was really important because it's not like we didn't get confident Bijan Robinson last year. I mean, look, he almost had 1,000 yards rushing on the ground in his rookie season. That's very good. And you expect that out of a running back that was drafted as high as he was. But I think for him to be as confident as he is means he's confident in Zach Robinson, first-time play caller in the NFL. And then he's also confident in his quarterback to allow him to get better. And that's what Kirk has been preaching ever since he's gotten to Atlanta. It's, I want the guys around me to be better. And I personally don't think we're talking enough about who's going to emerge as the second wide receiver for this team. I was watching Darnell Mooney on Go Balls yesterday in practice, and all I kept saying was, he is so fast, and people are not talking enough about Darnell Mooney and Ray McCloud. I think that this offense is loaded all over the place. You're going to start to see some of those pieces emerge when Kirk just lets it fly and lets them rip, and I think that's exactly what you're going to see.
I think you bring up a great point when you talk about Bijan Robinson going from year 1 to year 2, Maria. But I think the main thing for him is what I feel brings that confidence is that role clarity, the open line of communication. Because
Yeah.
Bijan had talked about in the offseason, in training camp specifically, about how he's giving feedback, like, hey, here's how I feel comfortable doing XYZ. Now we know that Arthur Smith wasn't the best of communicators. I feel like that ultimately that was his downfall, right? He didn't know how to communicate with his players and being able to go through those processes that they need to be able to be successful. And I think he just wasn't able to do that. So for me, I feel like with Zach and Raheem and being able to communicate, say, hey, here's what we want you to do. Here's what we feel that you can do in this offense. I don't think the Christian McCaffrey reference that he came up with came out of nowhere. I feel there was some communications down from the coaches saying, hey, here's our idea of what your role is in this offense. And I feel like if we get the chance to see that, oh my gosh, that means a lot of things. That means your offensive line is humming. And because we know what the expectations for those guys is to be one of the best units, specifically running the football in the NFL. And then if you're doing that, then you can play off that, right, with the play action. Then you talk about 11 personnel getting to those, going up top and going to those big play wide receivers in Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod, because those guys have so much speed to get up top. So I feel like Bijan Robinson is the center of this offense, and whether or not they're going to have a lot of success and get up to that 28 points a game that I talked about earlier.
And to be fair, Tenitra, don't kill me. I'm going to say something really, really fast. To be fair, Arthur Smith had his thumb all over this offense last year. He had way too much going on. And so now you have Zach Robinson, who's been relinquished full play calling abilities. And, he made a joke yesterday. He said, Raheem Morris is really an offensive coach. Don't let him fool you. I think it's just because he has so much experience on both sides of the ball now. But Zach Robinson has more control aside from Raw. So Raw's got his stuff that he's got to do, which is important. And he's going to have an opinion on how the offense is run for sure, but it's very different in the way that Arthur Smith operated as a head coach and a play caller. I think that's going to help this offense tremendously.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I know this might sound slightly selfish because full disclosure, in case you didn't already know, yeah, I bleed black and yellow. But I will say this, which is an mildly objective statement, which is I'm interested to see how the Falcons are going to be able to establish the run to set up the pass. I know that in this offense, it might be a little bit polar opposite, or at least people's expectations are, hey, they're going to establish the pass because they've got the weapons and they've got Kirk Cousins. But ultimately speaking, for a team that looks to sustain success and to go far in this season and in this league, you have to be able to establish the run. And this just so happens to be one of the better defensive fronts against the run in the league, in the Steelers, when you're talking about going up against, a Cam Hayward and just everybody that's kind of on their front line. But also, in addition to him and Keanu Benton, you've got guys in their secondary, Joey Porter Jr. and Minkah Fitzpatrick, who absolutely pride themselves in not letting you be able to get to the second level. So I'm very interested to see how this protection, this run protection for this particular O-line, which is also very good, is going to match up against that defense that's also good against the run. Now, the expectations for Kyle Pitts going into his fourth season are very high, Maria. But does Pitts being limited in practice Wednesday, you were there, so due to a hamstring injury, that's what kind of hampered him yesterday. Does that give you concern that we still may not see 100% healthy KP, or that there may be an impact to this offense week one?
It's a good question. And I think that, full disclosure, we don't get to see a whole lot of Falcons practice. I mean, we see a couple of periods, but nothing that would really give me a full insight on how Kyle really looks. I saw him running around. So if you want that kind of an insight, he was out there. I think the most concerning thing to me, even though it's just a minimal injury and he was limited, is this continues to happen with Kyle. He's hurt a lot. And I think that's when I read it, I said, okay, that's not great. I wasn't fully concerned like I have been in the past. And especially Kyle, knowing the expectations that he has for himself heading into year 4. The Falcons pick up his option this year, and there are a lot of expectations around him, as there should be. He's going to play through whatever is limiting him from practice. He's going to do that. He even made a tweet. I don't know if you guys saw it last night. So he was a little spicy on Twitter and basically just saying, I'll be ready on Sunday. So, that part worries me, just because Kyle is consistently hurt, and that is an issue. However, I think he's looked really good in training camp. I think he's looked and felt great all of training camp until this point, and I don't think he would let something so small, that's what we believe it is, keep him from not playing in the game on Sunday or being held back to any capacity, because he's ready to be unleashed more than anybody else wants him to be. I promise you.
Yeah, and Jarvis, he definitely has the idea and the thought and the attitude of don't overreact, good people, because like Maria said yesterday, he said, damn, 2 less plays in a rack, got y'all concerned? And then he's got the dead emoji and he said, I'll see y'all Sunday.
Yeah.
Well, when you think about it, I mean, I would prefer him not respond to that stuff on social media, because I mean, at this point, it's go time. You know what you have to do. You know the expectations that you have, not only from the fan base and your coaches, but of yourself. Like, you want to be able to go out there and earn a big boy contract, because that's what it's all about. Getting to that second contract, getting paid, and then going out and win some football games on top of that. So for me, I feel like I'm not too concerned, because I'm really in a space with Kyle Pitts where, hey man, it's either you're gonna tinkle or get off the pot. I like, that's it. That's where I'm at with it. Because you have to go out there and perform, because to be honest with you, I know a lot of people talking about how
potty train little girls. I'm sorry, that was so funny.
Well, I mean, I'm in a house full of women. Come here, what do you expect, Maria? Please.
Sorry. Keep going.
But for me, I feel like Kyle is in a spot where a lot of people are expecting him to be like the mainstay of this offense. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't. I feel like he can be a good asset to this offense. I talk about Bijan is the center, and I feel like Drake is going to be the guy to benefit. He's going to have a huge benefit for playing with Kirk and in this offense under Zach Robinson's leadership. So I feel like, Kirk is, not Kirk, but Kyle, if he comes along, cool. If he doesn't, I feel like this offense will still be fine.
One thing that I talked to Kyle about yesterday in the locker room, I tried to frame it in a way that I didn't really throw the other quarterbacks under the bus, just as tastefully.
He'll pick up on that too, by the way.
And he did, which was fine. And he definitely did. But, I asked him, I said, heading into year 4, I know as good as anybody, you have very high expectations for yourself. What is it like to have a quarterback that just wants you guys to be better? Just wants your receiving core to be better? And he said, I got to be honest with you, it feels fantastic, because I know where the ball is going and I know it's going to be in places where I can catch it. And I was like, shade, but good shade. And honestly, it was honestly like some of the most honest things that I've heard from Kyle, like just to hear, I have a quarterback who's going to get me the ball, and I know the ball's going to be there. I just have to be where I have to be, and the rest will take care of itself. I thought that was really important.
And just so you know, Jarvis, I like Spicy KP. I like Spicy KP on X. I like Spicy KP at Flower Branch. And I'm a like Spicy KP at the Benz. Now, 97 is back for his 10th trip. But what will stop number one looking like number one against his former coach? First game of the season. We'll talk about it in the deep dive. This episode of the Atlanta Sports Party is brought to you by Game Time. Now, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks also filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Now, if you're me, I'm kind of excited, yes, about week 1. And if I'm going, because I'm not covering the game, so I might go as a fan, I might need to get a last minute ticket because they're all sold out, but I bet I could find one on Game Time. Or I'm considering later this year picking up an Ursha concert. And if I do, probably going to know at the last minute because of my schedule. Game Times will have me covered. Game Time will have me covered because it curates easier opportunities to save more on not just sports, but also concerts and comedy. Now, Game Time has a ticket coverage where your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, and they have a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply, but again, create that account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today, because what time is it? It is game time. So Raheem Morris has done everything he can to ensure that Grady Jarrett will be ready for this moment, his return after a right ACL tear back in 2023, leading a real pass rush, okay, no shade, for the first time in his career and setting the tone early for this team to get in position to return to the postseason. So for you, what's the best path to success for Grady and company against the Steelers' Arthur Smith-led offense?
I think just let him go. Let him go. And that's one of the things that I asked Raheem. I said, how much are you? Because I know that there's some kind of concern because this is the first major injury in Grady's career. And so what does that look like when he returns? We don't know. We've seen it. So I phrase it in a way that, aren't you just excited to have Grady back and see him doing his thing? And he said, yeah, it's more exciting for me than it is worry because he's kind of been healthy for a while. And I think it's important for Grady to be back fully healthy because Arthur Smith is going to run the football. It's going to be a battle up front there in the trenches. But the good thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line is it's been retooled a bit. And Tenitra, you know that better than anyone. They've got a center who is a rookie and they've got some pieces there that have been shifted around. That's good for a guy like Grady Jarrett, who's going to be getting back in his first game. I think he's going to be fine. Truly, I do. David Onyemata obviously has the experience. You've got Zach Harrison and Ruka Rororo. You've got a bunch of guys who are out there getting ready to play bully ball in the trenches. And so for me, I think you just let Grady do his thing. Don't hold him back. Let him be the all-pro and pro bowler that we know that he is. And I think that this is a very show me season for Grady. I think he's really been emotional throughout this entire thing and in a good way. It's the first time he's ever been held back in his career. So you're about to see him get unleashed in a very different and I think nasty way. I'm very excited to see it.
And Jarvis, you didn't have to smile so much when Maria mentioned that the Steelers have Zach Frazier as their rookie who will be starting under center, or the fact that their left guard, Isaac Samalu, is questionable, as well as their backup right tackle, Troy Patanu. Yep. I just wanted you to know I saw your little sneaky smiles and it ain't cute.
He was funny. I kind of did that just for you to see how you would react too.
Yes. So when you I'm so glad you brought that up because there is going to be a little petty come out right now because Petty Monger hasn't been around in quite some time. But
what do you mean? Yes. Okay. Anyway.
I think there's always levels to this thing, right? There's levels to it. I've been calm, leading up to this season, but now that it's game week, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about how they're going to rotate these guys. Because you mentioned Zach Harrison, who has been just a guy who just been ascending ever since towards the end of last year. You just looking at him coming in, he looks different, body add the weight on. In this offseason, he just looks like a guy that just is ready to break out. So for me, I want to see what these rotations look like. And as far as, because we understand last year, Ryan Nielsen, he was real big on these wholesale. I used to call them hockey line changes, right? He changing out whole lines and bringing in fresh and rotating them in that manner. So I'm interested to see what Jimmy Lake, how he handles these rotations and whether or not that has a little bit to do with Grady, coming off the ACL injury and everything like that. So I'm really see how they do it. But I'm with you, Maria. When Grady's out there, it's going up. I ain't gonna say go down. It's going up. Somebody's going up into the quarterback. Right? I feel for the person that's gonna line up across from Grady and Onyemata and Zach and all those guys in Mercedes-Benz, because I feel like this defensive line is the best defensive line I've seen in 15 years.
Yeah.
It's deep. It's deep.
Yeah, if you've got to keep going back to Abe, that's a problem. That tells you just how long this has been a challenge for this organization.
No shade to you, Abe. We love you.
Abe. Talking about you so prominently in 2024 when you haven't suited up in over a decade. I mean, that's just the reality of it. But I agree with you guys. And I think for me, success for me, even in week one and even going on, wouldn't be so much Grady getting sacks, but it'll almost be like I'm going back to I think it was like the Dwight Freeney time frame where everybody else ate because Dwight Freeney was getting, double teamed, if you will. And that's kind of what I see. If Grady is Grady, then Grady's going to be getting double teamed again. And that means everybody else should be eating. And I think finally the Falcons are back in a place where they have the advantage to take advantage of people and players who can actually eat when given the opportunity. Now, Mama Jarrett gives Grady one word at the beginning of every game, Maria. So what's your one word for Grady for this game?
Relentless. He needs to be relentless in every pursuit. And I think that it's fine for Grady to take a break sometimes, although you tell him that it's not really going to work out well for you. Grady is ready. He's ready. He's been ready. And he's been very adamant about the fact that I am healthy. I'm just ready to be out there and to play. I mean, this is, again, new territory for him. He's never been on this side of things. Troy Anderson in that boat as well. I mean, Troy, obviously a lot younger than Grady Jarrett, but he's in the same boat where he's been sitting back and just ready to be released again. And it's kind of, we haven't talked about this enough. We know that all these guys are coming back from major injuries. Troy Anderson, Kirk Cousins, who is the biggest piece of this puzzle, and Grady Jarrett. These are three guys that stand out to me that are going to have big Sundays because they've been sitting on the sidelines ready to just go in. And I even asked Troy, I said, look, what's it like knowing that you're a part of a game week and you're going to be playing on Sunday? You haven't felt that in a little bit. And he said, I've just been so anxious and ready to get back into this game situation. Grady's in the same boat, and I think relentless in the pursuit of your opponent, relentless in the pursuit of the trenches. That's just what he's got to be. All 4 quarters, Grady's got to be relentless.
Now, I don't think Grady's going to do anything that is going to surprise us per se, although hey, it's Grady, so there could be some surprises. But when we come back, we're going to talk about some surprises maybe on the depth chart for the Falcons, but also what the Dogs need to do for win number 2 of the season. We'll talk about it in Around the Metro. Locked On Sports Today is a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the noise. Locked On Sports Today also brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Jarvis, just before we took our break, Maria was talking about Troy Anderson. And of course, the Falcons released their first official depth chart of the regular season. And Troy Anderson was actually listed as a starter inside opposite Caden Ellis. And now we know things like Matthew Judon and Justin Simmons being listed as starters wasn't a shock, especially because, hey, you went out to get them. But by the look on your face, I don't know if there's a surprise about Troy Anderson or whether there was another surprise on that depth chart for you. But go on, JD. Tell us what it was.
Yeah, obviously this was the biggest one for me because I'm a big Landman fan. Like that's I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of undrafted free agents getting to this place, right? Because we understand the numbers just don't add up for them when they come into the league, right? So I'm interested to see. I know we probably won't find this out. I'm interested to see how they weighed this decision. Is this because Landman is limited? Right? Yeah. Or they don't know what he's gonna be, or if he's gonna be at full strength, and that's why Troy Anderson is stepping into the starting role, or which is what my eyes believe. I was like, hey, this is something that Troy Anderson, he's in a year. I feel like he's kind of in the same boat as Kyle Pitts. Is that, hey man, it's time for you to tinkle or get off the pot, sir. That's where I'm at with it. Like if you don't have to use the bathroom, listening or watching us, like I'm pretty sure you probably gonna have to be able to do that once you finish up. Because hey, look, I'm at a space where when it comes to these guys, like you're a second round pick, that expectations come with that. So I'm hoping this is the right move for him to say, hey, they believe in me. They understand what my potential is, and I need to live up to that. And then I'm hoping that's the type move, and not necessarily because they don't feel like Landman is going to be ready to go. So because I know a lot of people feel like, and Aaron Freeman is included on that as far as with Locked On Falcons, he thinks I hate Troy Anderson or I'm always hating on him. That's not necessarily the case. I'm just saying I want the man to play up to what his capabilities are, what the Falcons believe his capabilities are. So yeah, that's what I'm at.
Now for you, Maria, any surprises on that depth chart that was released this week?
Not really. I mean, especially after the additions of Justin and Matthew Judon, I didn't really see many. And to be fair about Troy, he really was playing, I think, past what we all thought his potential was before he got hurt. And so I think that, in the few games that he played last year, he was showing us exactly what the Falcons put him at that starting inside linebacker role for.
Yeah.
And so I really was interested, same as you, to see what Nate Landman, Caden Ellis, Troy Anderson, JD Bertrand, like even that, where were all of these guys going to fall? So I think that's really where I was looking the most on this roster. But the way that the injuries fell in training camp, the way that the additions did, it honestly makes a whole lot of sense to me. So there were not a lot of big surprises, but I am really interested to see what this year looks like for Troy, just because I do believe he can play to his potential, because we saw really good flashes of that in the few games he played before he was hurt.
Yeah, and I got to agree with you guys. I think Troy Anderson might have been the most surprising, but not overly surprising for all the reasons that Jarvis mentioned. I think what's going to be intriguing for me, and we won't know now, but when you look at the depth chart, and for example, you see a Low Carter, then you see a James Smith-Williams, then you see D'Angelo Malone. It just, in my mind, I was just thinking, oh, I wonder what those rotations will kind of look like. Same for Zach Harrison and TQ. Like, what are those rotations going to look like? How much time, how many snaps will they get in terms of how Jimmy Lake sets his defense this season based on what we saw as far as the rotations went last season? Now, Jarvis, Georgia's getting set for the home season opener against Tennessee Tech this Saturday. They're looking for win number 2 on the season. What should be Kirby Smart's biggest concern? What are you looking for going into this matchup?
2 words: stay healthy, because we understand what's going to happen in this game. The way they did Clemson, which is a Power 4 school who's won 2 national championships, and they got Mr. Man at head coach. You know what, T? I'm that man no longer will be mentioned on this show by me. I will be referred to him as Mr. Man. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, Maria, just to let you know. His name starts with a D, ends with a Y, there we go. So,
Mr. Man.
Mr. Man. So after ending Mr. Man's career as a head coach, a respectable head coach in the Power 4 conference, I feel like this week is all about staying healthy, because we understand, we talked about on Atlanta Football Party, Georgia the Dogs edition, is just about, I feel like Mike Bobo needs to go ahead and come out, but get Carson going early on. We don't have to turn around and hand the ball off and run out the clock and all that stuff. Get him in some rhythm early, and then you can kind of pound the rock, to get the game over with. So I'm looking for Mike Bobo to be able to say, hey, I trust you, Carson. I understand that you're going to be a top 5 quarterback in NFL 2025 NFL draft. So I need you to go ahead and get your numbers up early. So hey, we can kind of relax in the second half.
What about you, Maria? What are you looking forward to most in this Georgia game in Athens this weekend?
Well, I'm not Bobby Wilder, that's for sure. The head coach at Tennessee Tech said he's not really thrilled to go to Athens. And, there was a lot of criticism about that, but I got to be honest, I don't blame you. You look around at some of those scores from last week and you see people like Ole Miss putting up a gajillion points. I mean, I get it. You go down there to play with your team. You want to have a chance to win. They were going to have a nice paycheck at the end of this thing, but it's tough to play what I think is the best team in college football in the country. And it's not, I get it. I get both sides of the coin where you want to pump your kids up to go play Georgia. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to go in there and get my kids hurt. And, God forbid somebody have a season ending injury against the number 1 team in the country, against a team that really, I don't think they have any chance against. But yeah, I would like for the Dogs to stay healthy. And there was a lot of criticism last year for the Dogs when it came to starting fast, like Jarvis was talking about. And a lot of people thought that they didn't. And Carson consistently was like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. We're starting fast. It's just because we're not scoring on every drive. People are thinking, wait a second, you guys aren't starting fast. But I'm with you. I'd like to see Carson involved in what I know he can do a little bit earlier on in this offense and take advantage of that against Tennessee Tech. And this is also the opportunity where they can experiment a little bit with this offense that is kind of a new look Georgia offense, if you will. A lot of those pieces that Carson had are gone. And so these are a lot of transfer kids, a lot of guys we haven't seen before. When Etienne going to get into the picture? All of these things are going
That's
to
a
be what
sensitive
you'll see.
subject, Maria.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. I just want to see a little bit of experimentation by Mike Bobo. Maybe that's an unconventional line of thinking, but start to experiment a little bit. What can you do? What can't you do? Now's the time to do it, because once we get a little bit further into the season, Georgia's got a tough schedule. The experimentation goes out the window. You got to know what you have on offense.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's probably the health more than anything as well, because of course, Warren Brinson wasn't able to go. We know Michael Williams is going to be down for a couple of weeks. So you look at those, and granted, that's why you have the depth that Georgia does have, but ultimately you're just hoping that we don't have to have another conversation next week about moving parts up, if you will, because somebody else went down. Now, the Braves wrap the series against the Rockies tonight, and that's another team where you're like, please, no more injuries. Please just get out of the series alive, Maria. So when you think about that, the good thing is they have already wrapped up the series. When the other good thing, as Jarvis knows I like to talk about, is this ain't no businessman special at noon. So darn it, you should sweep the damn thing because you're playing at night, because you know how much of a hot mess they are in the middle of the day. But that said, 7:20 p.m. is first pitch for Reynaldo Lopez. What do the Braves have to do, Maria, to pull off this sweep?
Well, I think they just continue to do what they've been doing the last couple of games. And especially this was a great opportunity for them to reset a little bit. The Colorado Rockies are not a good baseball team. And so for the Braves to gain a little bit of confidence back, have Chris Sale on the mound and do what he's doing. I tweeted it out earlier this week. He should be comeback player of the year. I don't think that there should be any other argument for anyone else. And I know there's the argument for Cy Young winner as well. He's just had such a terrific season. I mean, beyond what all of our expectations are. So have your starting pitching continue. Raylo, do what Raylo does. And yeah, don't get hurt. I mean, this has been the theme to this freaking Brave season all season long. It's every time you turn around, another piece of this infield, outfield, it doesn't matter where on the field they are, they're getting hurt. So I think stay healthy and just continue to do what they've done. They have put in very timely hitting, which is something they've struggled with, I think, within the last month, but timely hitting at the plate and continue to do what you're doing on the mound. Raylo's got it. I think they're going to sweep this thing.
Yeah. I like the Raylo reference, by the way. I might have to take that one from you, Maria. But yeah, Reynaldo Lopez is the guy that when you look at consistency, he's right up there with Chris Sale, just been just lights out, specifically within the last 3 or 4 starts, and you just look at the numbers. He just doesn't give up runs. It just doesn't happen. It's all about, hey, I'm putting it all on y'all just to score. Give me 2 or 3 runs and we'll be good. So
timely hitting.
Yeah, exactly. From that standpoint, I feel that the Braves will be able to do that. Like Maria mentioned, the Rockies aren't that great, so I feel they're in a good space to go ahead and get the sweep for sure.
Yeah, of course, got to win his last outing. 1.5 ERA in that same outing, 6 strikeouts, and some encouragement last night because Jorge Soler had an RBI single.
Woo! Mr. 69. Wait a minute. Hold on. Right, exactly. He batted 69 the last 10 games before the last game.
Clarify when we say 69.
Let me clarify.
On that note, thanks to our everydayers for making the Atlanta Sports Party your first listen of the day. Be sure to stop by Locked On Hawks for your second listen, and be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're also free and available wherever you download your podcast. We'll see you on the Atlanta Football Party Monday.